And we talked about the inflammation as being the biggest thing. And it's kind of fun because I interviewed our, you made this right, VP of Product and Research and Development, Dr. Alan.
Yes. Love him.
He's so great. And his thing, I've had on that podcast, we talked about it. Then I also talked to him in, where was the last thing? Orlando, yeah. And we were talking about like, what would be the one thing? Like, what's the one product we have that you would say? He's like, whatever's going to decrease inflammation, which he says is, like our GLP-1 and our M3 breakthrough. He's like, our main problem is inflammation. And if we decrease inflammation, get rid of inflammation, we can fix so many other things.
100%.
For him, he's like, that is our core.
Yeah.
And so I know you and I talked about that, and that's kind of where we're getting in all of this is the mental and physical. So, the physical issues we know it's here. We know it's got, like, sleep is a huge one and all the ways we can fix it. But I do feel like we're also kind of like in this mental health crisis. So
very,
I talk to you about that.
Very much so. Yeah. There's a lot of going on there, and I think, again, going back to the inflammation, there's healthy inflammation. We need some form of inflammation to promote healing and to bring nutrients to issues that need help. But when it's chronic and it's nonstop, it just develops into a lot of issues. And when that gut is off and that gut to brain axis is off, your dopamine, your serotonin, a lot of your feel-good chemicals are produced in your gut. So when they're not being produced due to too much inflammation, when the signals aren't being received in full or at all, you get depression, you get anxiety, you get all sorts of issues that really, if you just ate a little bit better and you worked out a little bit, moved your body, you wouldn't even experience. And I can personally tell you just from my experience that, I run my own business, and I've grown it pretty substantially in the last year since being on these products. And I attribute that to my anxiety and my personal depression are just so low compared to where they were a year ago. Because I'm making better decisions, I'm taking care of my health. I'm putting my health first, in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of people get stuck in that. I need to take care of everybody else first. I need to, my kids are more important. My wife's more important. This is more important. But at the end of the day, you can't show up for people if you don't show up for yourself. And I think that's...
Put your oxygen mask on first.
Exactly.
Exactly. You're not able to be there to take care of anybody else. So you're not helping anybody by just using that excuse.
Exactly.
But we all do it.
We all do it. And we get stuck in that just overexhausted, can't show up, stressed. And when you really take the time to start connecting the dots and making the changes, it's pretty amazing how you can pull that anxiety out. You start feeling better about life. You feel better about yourself, and it can make a big impact in your mental health for sure.
So tell me that story, because it looks like you got a story in there. So I know they asked you before we started about how'd you get involved in NAKE? That was a good one too, because I didn't know. So
yeah,
story, and then this other backstory I see happening right here with this anxiety, depression, something.
Yeah, so I guess a little over a year ago, I was just kind of like at like the end of like just so tired of life. I was just like stressed. I was running my own business. I was trying to do this whole other business, the digital marketing that I kind of talked a little bit about, to you guys earlier. Sunk a whole bunch of money into it, and it had finally started, like I had started seeing it start to monetize and start paying off. But I was so stressed and just tired from my job. It's very physical, and I just didn't know where to turn. I had gotten off my ADHD medicine because it was, I was going up and down. I come home in the evenings, and I was just not a nice person. I was short. I was quick to snap. I was, probably raising my voice towards my kids a little more than I liked. I just wasn't the parent that I wanted to be,
for recognizing that.
And, it's mostly my wife telling me, hey, listen, buddy.
Good for her for recognizing
Listen,
that.
buddy, something's got to change because, no. Yeah. And, I thank her for that, for stepping up and, making me see it. And so I did. I got off of it, and it was rough. It was rough. Yeah. And that 1 year ago mark was basically me struggling through not taking my medication for like about 1.5 to 2 years of just not having anything. And I was trying mushroom coffees. I was trying different nootropic blends. I was trying supplements, all sorts of stuff. And nothing really worked like the Adderall and Vyvanse did.
Now, was that for just, because I've never taken that, but one of my kids did and he hated it. Was that only for the focus, or do you feel like the anxiety and depression was also involved in that? Is it because when you come down off of those medications?
Oh, for sure.
People would have never taken it.
I mean, I think, you know, I think it's a, you know, the Adderall and Vyvanse, they're both, they're both pretty much an amphetamine. Right. So they speed your system up and then they come down. And when you come down, you're just like, you feel so drained. You feel so just not good. Yeah, you're irritable. You're cranky. You know, and you've rough on yourself. You beat yourself up. Oh gosh, I yelled at my kids, or oh gosh, I was, you know, short with my wife, and you know, I spent a while beating myself up.
You didn't like yourself.
You know, yeah, I didn't. And I'm telling you, when I finally reached out to my friend Christina, you know, who was talking about, you know, peptides, and I said, you know, what do you have for the brain? Because mine doesn't work right.
Like mine.
I don't like me. Help me. She told me, she said, listen, I have a couple. And so she sent them to me, and I'm not going to lie, I looked and I was like, ooh, okay. That was a little bit more than I thought it was going to be, but how much do I want to fix myself? How much does my health matter? How much does my mental health matter?
Yeah.
And quickly what I realized is once I got on them, literally from the first dose, it was like my brain, instead of being all over here, it was like my brain just kind of came together, and like I could control my thoughts. I could focus. I could make a sense of the mess that was up there, you know?
We had a mess, yeah.
Yeah. And it was crazy to me how much better I felt pretty quickly for me. And it just, as I was on it, the longer I was on it, the more my short-term memory came back, which was really crazy, because you can ask my wife, you could give me the remote to the TV, okay? And like, we'd pause it or something, and like, we would not be able to find the remote. And she's like, well, I gave it to you. I'm like, why? You shouldn't have given me the remote. I can't remember where my keys are. You're going to give me the remote? And so we'd always joke. And now, like, I don't have a problem. I know where my keys are. I know where the remote is. Okay. And I've just had such a, you know, flip in just my brain health. My memory's getting better and better, and I feel better. And I think, again, that switch of, okay, well, now I'm starting to feel mentally better. Now I can start putting in a little bit more effort. And I was already exercising that. So that 1.5 years, 2 years prior to a year ago, I was exercising and getting back, but it was a struggle. Yeah. It was a struggle. It was hard to push myself to do that every day. And once I had the peptides, it was more of like I want to do this. Like, I'm ready for this health transformation. I'm ready to feel good again. And yeah. I mean, even my wife says it, you know, she's like, I see you're more present, you know, at family things. You're more, you know, there. You're not, you know, physically there and mentally off in La La Land, you know. Yeah. And so it's been a really awesome transformation in how I show up as a dad and a husband. And that's really been, you know, my favorite transformation. And it's why I'll, you know, scream these things from the top of the rooftop for the rest of my life. Like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, Make's not going anywhere. I'm ready. I'm here for it. So
yeah,
it's just
so great is us to be able to tell these stories, because everybody has a piece of something that I was going through, something you went through. You know, we all are humans, and we all have different lives, different situations, but then all again kind of the same. You know, we all struggle with the same struggles. Yeah. You know, not each of us the same one, but there's somebody that we know will have the issue with the focus. Like, I've never been on ADD, but our ADHD, any of those things, medication, I probably needed it, but it just wasn't a thing when I was growing up. My husband definitely needed it. We say that all the time. We're like, oh my gosh, Scout got it, honestly, and they're the same people. And but you just labeled as bad as, you know, boys at that age. Yep. Bad. You know, for me, I was always a note taker, because I feel like now when I look back at it, I had to make sure I wrote it down, because I would have been like, I was a go-getter, you know, type A firstborn, the whole thing, where I wanted to do a lot of stuff. But to do it all, I always had to have a calendar. I had to have a list to do it.
Be structured.
I had to be very structured, and I had to discipline myself. As a girl, I feel like that is a little easier for us. I don't know, it just comes to us easier than boys. Y'all just like slap seat of your pants, you know. we got this. I don't,
It's my life.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's how I combated the little bit of like that brain issue.
100%.
Bouncing like the ping ball, all over the place. And I still feel like it to this day. If I don't take the focus, I do feel like I can get to where I'm like that. Like I'll start one project, and then before I finish this one, I'm starting something else.
Yep.
And I'm like, no, where's my focus, Bill? Let me take one of those so I can make sure I stay on task. I just want to stay on task, finish that, because it feels so good when you just finish a task, and then you're like,
it does.
Check that one off. Let's move on to the next one.
And it's funny you say that, because that's actually one of the main reasons I like working out in the morning, because it's like when you do that, yes, it's that first check. It's that first check. It's like, all right, I that was one of the goals for my day. I checked it off. I'm done. And it believe it or not, that plays some dopamine roles. That plays some roles in that good brain chemical.
Yeah.
And so I tell people, like, not only because of the myokines, like we talked earlier, but like because you're like, I completed something. Yes, it's just good brain health.
I did that. I can do the rest of my day.
Yes.
And which we all need. We all have to have our own little like internal cheerleaders of, we completed that.
Yeah.
Good. And now let's eat better. Now, all the things. But if you wake up groggy and funky, like I'm used to without my Restored, and then you're like, oh, let me go have, a donut. And then you just, that goes to the nap.
Donuts.
Which donuts are
good, but they're so bad for you.
If we can find a way to make that without high fructose corn syrup and a whole bunch of stuff, we could be doing it. Somebody's bound to have it out there. We just haven't found it yet.
Exactly.